How you doing, Jim?
Good. Lovely to meet you. Thanks
You
for
too.
doing
Congratulations on the
this.
awards last night. Very
Oh,
much
thank you. Yeah.
fully deserved. I was going to ask. I loved the movie so much, and it's so brilliant. And you'll no doubt be so proud of what you all achieved, as you should be. But is there still an element of like surprise when it's been received as well as it has been? When even though it can be good and you know it's good, is it still overwhelming when people actually see this thing you made and love it as they have been?
No, it's fully deserved. I expected it all. No, yeah, of course. The fact that we made this as a short for nothing beforehand, like, and then for it to be a feature, even when we make it as a feature, we're like, this is still like, it's a British comedy with a robot in Wales. Like, it's life. I thought was like, if we can get in some cinemas in the UK, then that's a win, basically. Like, if we can be like, now and then we'll be on the Prince Charles cinema and get like some people who are just like a small group of fans who like are into it. That would be like that. To me, that was like, oh, that's the pinnacle.
Mm.
And then for it to then go to Sundance and then to be bought by Focus for like a global cinema thing was just like, it's kind of just blew our minds. Like, we really didn't expect that at all. So yeah, every sort of step of the way has been sort of slightly mind-blowing. But we'll see. I mean, it's not come out yet. Maybe no one will go and see it, and then we'll go back to like, okay, yeah, we'll just be in a one screen for like a week.
Because I know this idea, the whole concept of Brian and Charles has been floating about in different kind of forms and has been with David for, sort of 15 years or so now. When did this breakthrough happen for it to be a feature-length film?
I think really the breakthrough for it to be a feature sort of came once the short came out. I think, yeah, it was Ollie Madden at Film 4 who like sort of was the one who gave us the sort of the energy and the sort of belief that it could be a feature film. So when I think Rupert sent it to him right after it came out, and he saw it and got us in for a meeting, and then we sort of pitched a little bit of idea of how we thought it could be a feature, and he just believed in it like every step of the way. So yeah, I mean, a lot of just help from sort of public British companies and the BFI and Film 4 to like help us get it made.
And I remember when I was at the screening, because I was sat in between sort of two people, and the woman on my left was having like a giggling fit. She was finding it so funny. Every time sort of Charles tapped his feet, she honestly just burst into laughter. And then I noticed the guy next to me was really quiet, and I turned to him, he had a sort of single tear rolling down his cheek. And I realized that it does have that ability to make and it can have both, sort of really have both of those reactions from audience members. Is there a reaction you prefer? If someone comes up to you and says, I cried during this, or if someone comes up to you and says, I found this hilarious, is there one that you kind of enjoy sort of hearing more?
That's a great question. I think I actually would prefer, I mean, when you're in the cinema, you want to hear laughter, like, because that's like, that we've all of us come from comedy. So like, that is like the tangible thing where you're doing a good job. But really, like, I think the crying, that's what I want. I want that's a deeper emotional hit that you're getting. And like, and without spoilers, there was a moment last night where like, everyone sort of gasped and clapped and kind of like, there was a sort of laughed all at the same time in this sort of release. And it was like, yeah, that kind of, yeah, when you can hit them in beyond just the laughter, I think that's the best.
Oh, I'm interested too in the designing of Charles, because I mean, it's the whole point is that he's just been put together with whatever Brian could find. But there's, from you as a filmmaker perspective, there has to be a lot of method to that madness. He has to look like he's been constructed out of complete sort of like scraps, but he had to actually be constructed in a very precise way, I imagine. Can you just talk a little bit about designing the look of Charles and what you decided to use and what things Brian could choose to create him?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's like true, because from the shore, we just had like, Charles was just a cardboard box and like, a mannequin's head that Chris has had in his suitcase for ages. Like, so there wasn't much logic to him from that. So when we took it to the feature, and now we had all this backstory, like he's made from a washing machine, and this is all Brian's other inventions and stuff like that. So like, we just had to look at the script first to be like, okay, well, now we need to make him out, this box needs to be sort of washing machine sort of size, and his like eye now, like, it used to be like this rolled up bit of gaffer tape, so now we need to make this sort of like, we out of cogs or something. But like, yeah, it was always this kind of like, we were a little worried that it would like be too human-like sometimes. So we're always trying to disguise some things, like in Chris's legs, he wears these kind of like shin pads and stuff like that. But yeah, it was kind of like a fine line of like designing it, but then not designing it at the same time. Sort of like we would go too far, like with the costume that Gabby designed. We had some versions that were like amazing things that like we just didn't believe that Brian would ever be able to make them. So we then just scaled it back and been like, no, just put a grey t-shirt on, a grey shirt on him, and that'll be better.
And how was it directing Chris in that suit? Did you find yourself looking at the face and then sitting there giving directions to it and thinking, what am I doing?
Oh my God, I probably, yeah, definitely. I mean, like loads of people just talk to Charles like that anyway. Like he was definitely a character on set more than Chris was probably. But like directing him, I mean, there's very little directing you have to do with Charles. Like, you know, you only ever need one take of his face, because like there's the only movement is a bit of lip movement, and that's it. So yeah, mostly it's a bit more kind of mechanical direction for him, which you don't normally do with actors, but it is much more like stand there, move there. And like and then he can't be too free. Bouncing around a house,
because he kind of comes across, the character of Charles, as a sort of teenager, and that's the kind of dynamic, is that he's a kind of teenager that wants to get out and do things. He's being told by his dad that he's got to stay at home type thing. But I actually saw more of my relationship with my dog in there. Was that an inspiration at all?
Definitely. I've got a dog, but I don't have a child. So I remember that specifically that scene. There's a specific dog bit where like Brian comes home and Charles is kind of like bouncing around. I remember David like asking me, what do you do? What do you do with your dog when he comes home? And I think we ended up cutting this out of the film, and I now regret doing that. But there's a bit where like I think I just said like, oh, he comes back and then we're going to have like a cuddle on the sofa or something. So like, but then David said that to Charles in the scene. It was so funny. And I can't tell you why we cut it out now, because it's saying it out loud. It's like,
I was going to say, that sounds great.
I think it's probably one of those things where you're choosing between. We chose the scratching behind the ear thing, and I think that's probably, it was either that, it was one or the other, and you go with that. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I just loved about this more than anything else was that there was just no explanation for the supernatural. You get films like this that feel this like need to try and make sense of it. And what I loved about what you guys did is that it doesn't, and you just let the audience just let their minds sort of run wild with it. But when you were creating it, when you were thinking about ways to did you ever think about ways, to explain the fantasy elements? Was it always the idea just to go, do you know what, we're just going to do this, and the audience just have to just suspend their disbelief and go with it?
No, definitely. I mean, like we did, like you're right. We had some scenes actually where we tried to explain it a little bit more, or like, well, we had like for the way Charles comes to life, we had like a small thing with explaining the mouse a bit more and seeing it come out of his mouth, but that never quite worked. To be honest, looks quite gross. So we'd like, but really, like the sort of logic of the world, like we didn't really want to explain too much, because I think it is that kind of that sort of family film sort of like fantasy world where like, yes, Charles is strange to people, but he's not like that strange. Because like in reality, if you saw Charles, you'd probably call someone and be like, they've just invented the most insane AI ever. Like this is like Brian is a genius and he's to like, but you know, like he can, for Charles can be seen in public and get a strange reaction, but not. I think you can just present rules in film and then people just accept them. So
I was going to ask too about the mockumentary format and what the thinking was behind that, because I wondered if you created a backstory for that. Like, for example, like The Office, that's one of the kings of the mockumentary. It was always it was purporting to be a kind of an actual BBC drama series. I just wondered if you came up with a kind of idea of where this mockumentary would be placed eventually, or also the documentary would be placed eventually, and why and how they found Brian in the middle of the
Well, so my logic in my head for this was always like, basically it's almost like the team have set out to make like a short documentary film. This is like all the stuff I watched when I was like researching this. I watched a lot of short docs rather than feature length. I watched a lot of feature length as well, but like particularly coming from the fact that we made it as a short film, like there's so many short films about just strange like men or women, like, but there's one called like Bug Man, where he's just a guy who collects bugs. There's another guy about this guy who like eats and like roadkill. All these so they're kind of like 20-minute docs, like often on Vice. So in my head, the logic was like, we're making that film like up until Charles appears, and then when Charles appears, you know, the crew realize they've struck gold here. Like this is there's a lot more to now happen. So, and also just filmically and stylized, if you sort of follow it, you're like, it's really kind of a single camera documentary up until Charles. And then in my head, it was always like, right, the team have called in the bigger guns and they've spread it to like a 2-camera thing. So then the film kind of builds in scale from there.
And what you do get with that style and that format is you get the great looks from David to camera as well. Which you might, you know, so it allows you to have that kind of fourth wall. So he's such a funny man. How is David to direct on this? Because he brings so much pathos to that role as well. I was talking, you know, at my first question about early on, when about the person next to me laughing, the person next to me crying. That comes from him, really, doesn't it? I mean, he's a wonderful actor. He's
a brilliant, amazing actor. Like and like I think that's what's great about this film, is just shows what a great dramatic actor he is as well. Like he brings so much pathos to that, and to direct him is just a joy. Like he's so open and collaborative, and like, you know, we're mates, so we've just like. We made a short together for nothing, and then now we're just getting to make this feature. So yeah, he's very open and collaborative, and honestly, the easiest person I've ever worked with, probably.
I'm looking forward to interviewing him in about an hour. My final question. I mean, this was a short, and now it's obviously a movie. Do you feel you've scratched this itch now, or are these characters that you reckon could be revisited again someday in some capacity? Because it does feel like there's scope here for, I don't know, things, isn't there? Ways to delve back into their life, because there's so lot of, from an audience member, I don't want this to be the end.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely think there's a lot more that could come from them. I certainly feel like the itch has been scratched. Like I would be happy if that was it, you know, but if the film is very successful and people want more, then, you know, we definitely have ideas if that's the case.
Cool, brilliant. Well, fingers crossed. I'm sure it will be successful. It deserves it. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jim. And best of luck with the movie. And we'll catch up again one day, I'm sure. Cool.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey You